travelers dream of experiencing the beauty of Tanzania, from its stunning national parks to vibrant cultural sites. Yet the costs often seem overwhelming. But with Visit Tanzania for Less, exploring this East African gem on a budget is not only possible, but incredibly rewarding. Whether you're a solo backpacker, a volunteer, or just a budget-conscious traveler, we provide valuable insights and resources to make your journey unforgettable without breaking the bank. Book your trip now with just a $300 deposit and flexible monthly payments until your travel date. For more travel inspiration and tips, follow us on Instagram or visit us at visittanzaniaforless.com. Visit Tanzania for Less, your dream adventure within reach.
Good afternoon, Muskegon. Welcome to Community Focus, May 8th, 2026, this Mother Day weekend. My name is Gregory T. Roberts, and
I am Melvin C. Burns II.
How you doing, my brother?
I'm good, brother. It's good to be back in the studio with you.
Man, I missed you last week, bro.
Well, I would like to tell you I missed you, but that 90-degree weather in Florida was really nice.
So this is Community Focus, a show to bring you news, information, and more about the community, but not only community, about what's happening in the world.
Yes.
And there is a lot happening in the world, but let's start with the weather.
Today, if you've noticed, it's very sunny out here in Muskegon. We had a low of 33 and a high of 60. Tomorrow, expected to be cloudy, low of 47, high of 60. Sunday, Mother's Day, it will be sunny, low of 39 and a high of 55. On Monday, expect that sun to still be out, low of 37, high of 53. On Tuesday, 75% chance of rain, low of 35, high of 53. Rain expected again Wednesday, low of 45, high of 57. And next Thursday, the sun comes out again, high of 61, low of 41.
So we have just a mixed bag, but we don't see no snow, so we won't complain. Your top five. What's your top five?
You know, this is Mother's Day weekend, right? We knew that. So I'm taking from 75 Mother's Day quotes to inspire love and appreciation by Jackie Rupp. She made this list in May of 2024. So here are 5 things to inspire you for love and appreciation for your mother. Quotes. Leonardo DiCaprio said, "A mother's hug lasts long after she lets go." Maya Angelou said, "To describe my mother would be to write a hurricane in its perfect power, or the climbing, falling colors of a rainbow." Only Maya Angelou can write like that, right?
Right.
How about this? The great Olympic athlete, Wilma Rudolph. She said, "My doctor told me I would never walk again. My mother told me I would. I believe my mother."
Oh, nice.
Yes, yes. And this quote may have heard before, the great Fred Rogers. He said, "When I was a boy and I would see scary things in the news, my mother would say to me, 'Look for the helpers. You will always find people who are helping.'" Nothing sums up better the impression Fred Rogers' mother made on him. And then a little humor. Betty White. "It's not easy being a mom. If it were easy, fathers would do it." I always count on Betty White for a good one, right?
Let me say this. If you are out there and you still have your mother, consider yourself blessed.
Yes.
And if there is any beef or anything, the biggest present that you can give her is squash that stuff and come back to your mother.
Yes.
Come back home.
Yes.
We have a fantastic show. I'm really excited because anytime you have a chance to talk to a veteran, we want to salute them and give them the respect and honor that is due.
Yes, yes, for sure.
So who do we have as our guest?
Our guest today, would you join me in welcoming to the program Mr. Norris Ellis. Brother Ellis, welcome to the program.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for having me.
Yes. Would you tell folks a little bit about yourself?
I'm a native Mississippian. I am a Navy veteran, 30 years, and I affectionately like to say 30 years, 8 months, and 1 day active duty.
All
Uh,
right.
Thank you for your service.
I'm also a special disabled veteran, so I covered a variety of in the veteran community,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm happy to be here.
Good. We're glad to have you. One of the things we want to talk about today, coming up toward the end of the month, is Memorial Day.
Hmm.
And as we talk about Memorial Day, I think there may be it's evolved over the years to what it's about, what it's meant. So we want to talk a little bit about the history of Memorial Day, and what better person to talk about that with than a veteran.
Mhm.
I do my best.
So we're going to let you educate and inform us today. Let's start off. Tell us a little bit about the history of Memorial Day.
Well, Memorial Day originally started as what we call Declaration Day.
Okay.
Declaration Day was a day where, family went to the cemeteries and stuff. And let me just back up just a little bit. I
Mm-hmm.
remember as a child, my father, growing up down in rural area Mississippi, would take us each year down to this country church to the cemetery. And as a kid, I didn't understand what that was about.
Mhm.
So I said, Dad, what? I said, why are we doing this? What the purpose of this day? And it was Memorial Day. He said, quote, to remember the dead.
Okay.
That was what he told me, and that's the way I grew up. Remembering Memorial Day is to remember the dead. And as I grew older, and of course joining the military, uh, recognized the true meaning of Memorial Day, and it is to honor and to remember those fallen soldiers, sailors, airmen, marines who gave all. There's a cliche to say, "All gave some,
Mm-hmm.
some gave all." We,
Mm-hmm.
we are honoring those that gave all, that include their life,
Okay.
those that are no longer with us today.
Mhm.
Okay. And so
Um,
when we talk about this holiday, how far back are we going when it was first Declaration Day?
well, originally, uh, from my historical remembrance, it actually started. Memorial Day was actually started by enslaved people
Okay.
during the Civil War
Okay.
Mhm.
when they went out to bury mass graves for all the fallen soldiers that died during the Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was around 1865. Don't fact check me on that. My memory,
Okay.
okay, around 1865. But
Okay.
then it was went on to be named, like I say, Declaration Day. And I'm thinking that went on until about uh, was it late 70s? I'm not quite sure, but
Mm-hmm.
they started calling it Memorial Day.
Okay.
So, and that's the day of recognition, of recognizing those that gave all to this country.
Okay.
What doing right now? During these years where things are on technology and all this kind of stuff, why is it important to explain to a younger generation or generation period the importance of this day?
You know, I've been recipient. I've been a recipient of people coming up to me on Memorial Day saying, because they see my hat, thank you for your service. Well, Memorial Day is not for the veterans. Okay, there's a distinct difference between Veteran Day, Armed Forces Day, and Memorial Day.
Mm-hmm.
Memorial Day is for those fallen service members, soldiers, airmen, and Marines, for those who are no longer with us. And it is supposed to be a somber occasion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, it's a moment of reflection. You have families who do not have their loved ones, children who do not have their father, brother, mother, or so forth. They are remembering those people. So I take every opportunity when I can to educate. When the individual come to me on Memorial Day and say Happy Memorial Day, I try to take a minute, and I know that they don't mean any harm by
Yeah.
doing that.
Mm-hmm.
It is
Hmm.
because they really do not know. So I try to take a moment to explain that Memorial Day is not for me.
Okay.
It's for those soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines who are no longer with us.
That's good. That's
We are
good.
recognizing them. And granted, once again, I don't take an issue with it. I just try to educate
Yeah, sure.
them as much as I can.
That's
Right.
good. That's good. So let me ask you this: how is Memorial Day treated for active duty service members? What kind of services take place?
It is like once again, and I did it for 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
We honor those fallen members.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, um, usually they have a time at 3 o'clock p.m. where you know you applaud everything that you're doing for that moment of silence for those fallen service members, soldiers, airmen, Navy, Marine Corps people. Um, but it's all about remembering those that are no longer with us, those that gave made the ultimate sacrifice, and for those individuals. So we take that very seriously because, like I said, it wasn't for those who came before us, we wouldn't be here.
Hmm.
So we take that opportunity to remember and honor them.
Mr. Ellis, can you explain to our listeners and viewers how does it feel to be in service and to lose someone by your side serving?
It's a humbling experience, which remind me of a little tradition in a story here. You know, each Memorial Day, and I did take a part in a couple of years ago where we planted flags on all the fallen soldiers' graves on Mona Shores as a part of VW 9388. And there's a little tradition, and this one really touched me. You know, if you go to a veteran, you see a veteran cemetery or a headstone of a veteran, and you see a corn on that headstone.
Mm.
Well, those corn have different meaning, and I distinctly remember when I was doing this at Mona View there. Sorry, a penny mean that you knew that fallen service member. A nickel mean that you was in training with him. A dime on the headstone mean that you serve with him, and a quarter mean that you were with him when he passed.
Oh,
And I
wow.
had this opportunity when I was placing these flags on these graves over at Mona View Cemetery. This one particular headstone, I don't remember the name, but it had 5 quarters,
Mm.
5 quarters sitting on top of the headstone.
Wow.
There were 5 individuals who were with this fallen service member when he passed.
Wow.
I do have members that I know who have passed, not on my ship, but on another command, who are no longer with us. So it's a humbling experience, that that person gave all.
Wow.
Those soldiers gave all. Those Marines, they gave all. And yet I survived. I'm still here. I'm blessed. Well, humble, put it that way. I'm humble.
Mm.
Yeah. You talked about, and I know they've had services at Mona View in the past. Have you had a chance to go to any of the services at any of the other, like in Arlington or the other places to Memorial Day?
You know, not at Arlington, but service at Fort Custer, and
Okay.
I challenge anyone if you ever get an opportunity to go up to Fort Custer, Battle
Mm,
Creek. It
yes.
is an awesome sight in the way that they honor those uh, soldiers, sailors, and Marines. I
Hmm.
mean, it is. I mean, it is. It's an awesome sight, even
Yeah.
from the last interment to the way they do their daily operations.
Hmm.
And if you have a loved one who's a veteran who have passed away and they're being interred in Fort Custer, you know, I recommend, highly recommend that you go watch that service that they perform for those individuals. It's really touching.
Mm, that's good. What are some of the ways you plan to celebrate Memorial Day this coming year?
Like I stated before, really to honor those who have gone. And
Hmm.
me, I, I will be watching some of the old historical war movies and what happened to a lot of those individuals. I like watching documentaries uh,
Hmm.
to see, how many of them come up through their ranks and grew up and what happened to them. But I I'm a big history buff, so I like movies like Iwo Jima,
Hmm.
uh, watching Full Metal Jacket, and
Hmm.
you actually see how we lost so many of our people.
Hmm.
Mm.
I mean that it's really heart wrenching and heartbreaking to see how so many of our uh, soldiers, sailors, and so forth passed away.
Mr. Ellis, you talked a lot about one of my favorite things, history. Why is it important that we indulge ourselves and get into knowing history?
Well, it's the old saying: if you don't know your history, you're bound to repeat it.
Yeah.
Okay, uh, you need to know where you come from. You need to know the history of where you come from. I uh, I meet people like that. I grew up in Mississippi, and there's the old saying: a lot of people from the South migrated up to the North, for better jobs and so forth. But the history of Mississippi, for example, uh, I met people from Clarkdale. I met people from Jackson, uh, and when I say those different areas, back in the '60s, they had different meaning for us. They had
Hmm.
plantations, even in the '60s,
Hmm.
plantations where a lot of our people worked to survive. Then you had sharecroppers back then, where now granted there was some white sharecroppers, okay, but I'm mostly referring to the black sharecroppers. They never got out of debt. So to understand that process and understand what happened, what was going on back then. Now I don't glorify, but I do enjoy going back, learning. Okay, this was the way it was then, and this is how our ancestors survived and how they overcome and achieve certain great event.
Mr. Ellis, we have a question from Michael Anthony Smith from Houston, Texas. It said, I attended a service at Fort Custer last month. Awesome. But they did not bury him that day. Is that normal?
Well, and they well for Custer you have to have a schedule to get on there. As a matter of fact, usually when when a deceased occur, they schedule a date. In a lot of cemeteries, even up here, they will not allow you to watch the casket descend to the grave. It is pretty normal for them to, once they uh, commence their service, to go to do what they do. But I don't know whether or not they will allow you to watch him being, descended into the grave. I do know that shortly after that they will give you the number and all that stuff there, that you can go to that plot, whether it's a cremation or whether it's a burial. So, but you know what? As a former VA employee, I can ask that question for you, and maybe get it back to the radio station and get it back to the individual who asked the question.
Good.
Okay. Yeah. Mr. Ellis, let me ask you this. Uh, our country has a long, complicated history with African American soldiers in particular.
Mhm.
What do you say to young African Americans who might, sit with you and say, "Why should I join the Navy or join the service?"
Well, speaking for myself, uh, my senior year, after I joined, I enlisted 6 months prior to me actually going active duty, a program called the Delayed Entry Program. I did not have the fund that I could go right to college.
Hmm.
I had a goal. Now, I sort of chuckle about this a little bit because I say, well, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I did know what I didn't want to do. Now, and what I mean by that, I grew up on a farm. My dad had cotton. He
Hmm.
had, we worked in the fields. Even though that he raised us
Hmm.
doing that, but that was not my vision to do the same.
Okay.
Uh, a father goal is always to have his child to do better than he did. And that's the
Right.
thing where I am right now. I want my children to be better than I am. But what I would say to an individual, especially in this current time in history, if an individual talking to me about the service, I would say, well, first of all, what is your goal? What is it you want to do? What is your academic ambition? I wanted to go to college. The military, I remember seeing a commercial saying, double your chance for success. I said, okay, I wanted to pursue an academic education. And I did that. I earned associate, bachelor of science, and two masters. And by the time I retired, I didn't have any student debt.
Hmm.
So to have a goal, what's your plan?
Hmm.
Plan your work and work your plan. That is
Okay.
what I would tell an individual who would sit down and talk to me.
Mhm.
And if you go in, make the best of it.
Hmm.
Whether you do 2 years, 4 years, or 20 years, make the best of it. Don't be the same when you go in. Don't be the same when you get out. Be
That's good.
better.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Accomplish something. That is what I would tell them.
It's Mother's Day weekend, and we think of fallen comrades, and we mostly think us is mostly men, but there were women that died
Yes,
as well.
yes, yes, yes. You know, there was a documentary on 688 that talk about
Yeah.
the all black women corps,
Hmm.
where the morale of the military, the service, the army people was so low because they couldn't get mail.
Yeah.
And how those women, how those black women, improved the morale of tens of thousands of service members.
Yeah.
You're indeed correct. There was women, black and white, female in the service, and
Yeah.
some of those, especially in Pearl Harbor, did not make it either.
Yeah. That's you mentioned a good point, that movie, which I hadn't heard that story till the movie came out. And kind of again to catch the thing of maybe in the military you'd heard it, but there's so many stories that we still haven't heard. Dory Miller from World
Yes.
War II. We need that movie. Even the late Robert Smalls
Hmm.
during the Civil War. Any of those kind of stories you think of, you say, man, people need to know more of these stories about our particular African American service in the military.
There, as you just said, there are so many.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many trailblazers in our community, like your first uh, black admiral,
Mm.
your first black general,
Yes.
your first female general,
Yes.
your first your first uh, black medical corps flag officer. There are
Yes.
so many stories, and you mentioned Camp Small, uh, and you got the Mumford Marines. They were a group of Marines where they weren't allowed to train with the white Marines.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So you know there are just so many
Yes.
to just name, just a couple. And,
Yeah.
and you see, like I mentioned some of those movies like Iwo Jima and so forth. You really don't see the participation of what our community
Yes.
provided to that.
Yes.
To bring more light to those people who who without them you wouldn't be able to survive. It remind me of when they came out with the ship. I think it was the Sullivan. I'm not quite sure. Don't fact check me on it, but I think it was the Sullivan,
Uh-huh.
the original ship where they had all black sailors.
Mm.
Now they were expecting those individuals to fail. So
Mm-hmm.
like anything else, the Golden 13, they knew what was at stake,
Yes.
and they succeeded, and they broke all barriers and many records that you still probably haven't seen today because they still have not been uncovered. Where they broke a lot of the records for the services, and
Mhm.
in the branches of the services. So it's a lot. It's a lot of stories out there.
Mr. Ellis, you talked earlier. You said that your dad took you to participate. How important is it for us to take the time to take our children and take them to uh, somewhere to say this is a veteran that died for you, and it's important that we recognize them.
It is extremely important. Don't let the history die,
Mm.
and take time to explain to them what you're doing and why you're doing it. Like I stated earlier, when he would take us out there, we were cleaning the cemetery, making sure that the graves are neat and cultivated. And yeah, he told me in the best way that he could on why we were doing it. Well, me today, with a little more knowledge than he had, can go a little bit more in depth on how and why we should honor this day, and who we honor, and why we are honoring this day. Not for me, but for those who gave all.
Mr. Ellis, we're down at the bottom of the hour, almost time to end this interview. What would you say? I want you to speak to your fellow comrades that are alive today, um, and give them some news because the country is going through a lot right now.
Hmm.
What would you say to your fellow comrades that are alive?
Remember those who are gone before us. Do not let their sacrifice be in vain. Honor those who gave all. As I stated in a statement earlier, all gave some, but some gave all.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let the history die.
Wow.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your service today, and we're going to make sure that we remind folks Memorial Day is coming up to honor those who've served our country.
Thank you so much, and it was an extreme pleasure to be here. Thank
Take,
you.
take care, sir. God bless, and we salute you.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
All right. Wow.
That's good stuff, man.
That's great
That's
stuff.
good stuff.
Because we remember when a funeral procession would pass and your parents
Yeah.
told you stop, take your hat off.
Yeah. Give that respect. Two things he brought to mind. Twice I know we've had the Vietnam replica memorial wall come to Muskegon, but I remember seeing it in Washington, and I remember my brother saying,
Oh,
He said, when you see it, it's hard to explain it.
Mm-hmm.
But you go there, and couldn't think of any name I knew on the wall at the time, but man, it's just a presence there. I don't know if it's the grief that people bring there and memories, but that thing has a presence.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to live in Dayton, Ohio, and there's a Gettysburg Cemetery there. And man, just rows and rows, the little white, about 2 feet tall markers.
Yeah.
And you think there's just hundreds, maybe thousands of them lined up, and just think some of them, maybe nobody was there, but all those soldiers that are just laid there for those over 100 years. And just, it just kind of strikes you, man, that's a lot of graves. That's just one military cemetery.
And I tell you what, I did this. My grandfather served in the military.
Okay.
And he served in World War One.
Okay.
I went downtown. I went to the county clerk, Karen Bowie, now has a new name, Deacon, and received his papers.
Okay.
And to read about my grandfather, and he was honorably discharged, and what they said about him, he was honorable. He served well. He did that. That history, I took it, and I'm having that frame to pass on to my daughter.
That's awesome.
Do not let history die.
Not at all. Yeah, it's important.
Wow, we're at the bottom of the hour. You are watching Community Focus with Pastor Melvin Burns II and Gregory T. Roberts. We'll see you after commercial break, and we pay some bills.
Many travelers dream of experiencing the beauty of Tanzania, from its stunning national parks to vibrant cultural sites. Yet the costs often seem overwhelming. But with Visit Tanzania for Less, exploring this East African gem on a budget is not only possible, but incredibly rewarding. Whether you're a solo backpacker, a volunteer, or just a budget-conscious traveler, we provide valuable insights and resources to make your journey unforgettable without breaking the bank. Book your trip now with just a $300 deposit and flexible monthly payments until your travel date. For more travel inspiration and tips, follow us on Instagram or visit us at visittanzaniaforless.com. Visit Tanzania for Less, your dream adventure within reach.
When smoking gives you COPD, you learn to lie a little bit. You make up excuses like, I have to get my keys. You guys go on. Anything so you can walk at your own pace. I used to do that all the time. Those lies don't work anymore. My tip is, the worst lies are the lies you tell yourself. Like smoking isn't that dangerous.
You can quit. For free help, visit cdc.gov/tips.
Very few. Oh, well, welcome back to Community Focus. Listen, we were just having a conversation already. Introduce our guest, please.
Our guest is the CEO of the West Michigan Symphony Orchestra, Andy Buelow. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good enough.
We're glad to have you in the studio with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Andy, tell people a little bit about yourself and for people that don't know about the West Michigan Symphony.
Sure. Well, I've been managing the West Michigan Symphony since 2018.
Okay.
And I've been managing orchestras in one shape or form for 30 years.
Okay.
Been to Traverse City, Tacoma, here, and before that, Milwaukee.
Okay.
So been around the block a few times. So
Okay.
this West Michigan Symphony has actually been in existence in this community for 86 seasons, 86 years, and plays at the Frauenthal Center downtown. And we, in addition to our main symphonic series at the Frauenthal, we have a venue called The Block. And The Block seats about 120 people. We do a lot of jazz and small ensemble music in there. And that's also where our youth choir and beginning strings program does its weekly rehearsals.
Okay.
And we host a lot of community events in there too.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, Greg was in the band. I wasn't. And so when I first hear symphony, I think of, the conductor in the suit and tails. And
Sure.
My daughter thinks Bugs Bunny music, but
Yeah.
music
A lot of
that-
hair
that-
flying
yeah,
around.
a lot of music that I don't understand and long concerts. But in my experience here in Muskegon, there's some of that.
Yep.
But you guys do a lot of different things to reach a lot of different people.
Yep.
And I assume that's intentional.
Yep.
Talk about that a little bit.
Well, for one thing, you won't see tux and tails at our concert. A few years back, our conductor, Scott Speck, who's just, he's been here 22 years,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just a wonderful human being, and very untraditional. And about 5 years, well, he's been saying this forever, but, you know, he said, why are we dressing like 19th century butlers? And can we please get out of these costumes? And, you know, this is a long tradition of orchestras wearing that stuff. But we decided to break with tradition. So, you know, we still wear black, but it's just a very simple shirt and slacks and no ties or anything like that.
Okay.
So let's see, what was the question again?
You're talking about the
Yeah. Okay, so the focus at the Frauenthal is definitely on orchestra music,
Mhm.
not necessarily classical. We do classical, but it's an orchestra is, I like to say it's just a big instrument, basically like a piano, except instead of keys, you got individual players. And, you know, just like a piano is used in jazz and classical and rock and roll and hip hop and all kinds of different things. An orchestra can play all that stuff too.
Yeah.
And so we try to do a little bit of everything all the time. We don't do every style. I mean, I don't think we've really done much in the direction of country, but we do just about everything else pretty regularly. And it's fun to kind of mix things up. And you know, we could go from doing a concert featuring Motown to Beethoven inside of a month. And that just keeps it interesting.
Yeah. I love that. You know, and not being a music guy, sometimes I think, man, I want to have to sound with a full orchestra, you know, and just hearing music live versus we hear so much recorded music.
Yep.
When you're there hearing it live, it's like, oh, right, that's what music is supposed to sound like.
Yeah, and the thing that I think is cool about it is it's kind of a digital free zone. I mean, not only is it live, but they're not amplified. Except very occasionally. Tonight we have a solo cellist, and you know, of course, he's got a bit of a pickup on his cello to just really direct the sound out there. But generally speaking, the orchestra's just playing acoustically. And one of the great things about the Frauenthal Center is it's got a great acoustic, really warm and big and full.
Real
And
fantastic.
yeah, it just sends the sound out throughout the house.
Yeah.
So
Now you talked about Scott, and I want to talk about him real quick. How rare is it to have somebody for 22 years? Because that's not normally common.
that's true. I would say it's pretty rare. You know, my experience seemed like in Milwaukee, you were lucky if you kept a conductor for 10 years. Sometimes it was like 5 or 6, and they would switch over. So yeah, this is pretty unusual, but he's unusual too.
Okay.
You know? You know, Scott is, you mentioned the sort of how sometimes people experience orchestra concerts as kind of long and stuffy, but Scott likes to really break it up, and he talks to the audience about what they're going to hear, makes the music really accessible. And yeah, like you said, sometimes we'll do a long symphony. One of the pieces we're doing tonight is pretty long, but sometimes we'll do a program where everything's really short and a lot of variety in it, just to break things up.
So now, again, a big part of what the symphony has been doing is getting to the community, getting the community involved, particularly young people.
Yep.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the Link Up program.
Sure. Link Up is something we've been doing about as long as Scott's been here. I'm not sure if he started it or what happened, but he must have, I guess. Can't be a coincidence. Anyway, Link Up originally in 2004 was a program started by Carnegie Hall in New York City.
Okay.
And it's actually a curriculum that they wanted to make available to orchestras throughout the country. And we were one of the first in 2004. And it's a curriculum that takes place in the classroom of schools all year long. Starts in the fall. And the kids start to learn just basically about music, about the different instrument families in an orchestra, They actually learn to read music.
Oh, awesome.
And everybody gets a pretty little plastic recorder, and they learn melodies, and they learn those all year. They get visited by musicians in the orchestra to kind of help them, and then in May they come to the Frauenthal Center and they attend a concert. And during that concert, they get to play their recorders along with the symphony,
Nice.
which is really something to hear. I tell you, when you get 1,000 kids in the hall and they're all playing recorders, it's quite a sound. There's so many kids involved, so many schools involved that we do the performance 3 times. So it'll be this coming Tuesday, and there'll be a concert at 9:30, a concert at 11, and a concert at 12:30. And it's they're all full at this point because there's 52 area schools. That are participating.
Now, how important is it to have this hands-on approach with kids in the music?
It's essential. It's really important. This region used to have, and in some cases still does, good school music programs. And but in a lot of places that's disappearing, or it's not consistent. And music is, I like to say, it's a lot like sports. Those are the things that keep our young people engaged and excited about going to school.
Yes.
And it makes them do better in the classrooms. If they don't have those kinds of activities, because let's face it, young people have so much energy and they need a place to release it. And you can release it. If you're athletic, you can release it on the field, but there's a lot of kids who aren't athletic, and they need art. They need music, they need theater, and they need to be able to have access to that on a frequent basis. So we've just, like a lot of orchestras around the country, when we've seen music disappearing from the schools or being phased out, we've stepped in to sort of make up that gap. And it's, some of it's enlightened self-interest, because if you poll symphony audiences around the country and ask how many people in the audience used to play an instrument, it's like 80%. So we want to have a future audience, and also future members of the orchestra.
Yes.
So it's been going on over 20 years. I was going to ask you, how receptive have the schools been to the program?
Very receptive. We offer it free. So their primary responsibility is to make sure that that they have a music teacher or somebody on staff who can teach it. Sometimes it's a music teacher, but sometimes it's like a classroom teacher. We've even had gym teachers teach Link Up. And so they have to devote that time during the year, and then generally speaking, provide the kids with the little recorders. And they're not terribly expensive, but you need to buy a whole passel of them, and then bus the kids down to the Frauenthal. And even in some cases, if we have schools that can't afford the buses or can't afford the cost of the recorders, then we can provide scholarships that help fund that for them.
It is amazing that the things that I learned in band and stuff like that, and some of the skills that I used in coaching sports, or I used even in being a fitness instructor and swim instructor, a lot of the stuff that I learned in music, I learned and use today. It teaches you discipline, it teaches teamwork, teaches concentration, all kinds of skills that whether you continue to play music your whole life, you're going to use those skills the rest of your life. I couldn't agree with you more. Please, I want you to say that again, because some people do not understand, and in a lot of schools when music programs are dying out. But when instead of dying out, we need to increase the music program.
That's right. I mean, there's all this focus on test results and teaching to tests, and we don't have time for music because we're too busy trying to increase our test scores. You want to tear your hair out. I mean, I don't have a lot of hair left, but
we understand.
Because this is what helps kids to do better at everything, and including math and science and social studies and English and everything that they do. So if you want to increase your test scores in your school, have a lot of music and arts, and you'll see that happen.
Muskegon Superintendent Matt Cortez sat in that very seat more than once and has told us that very same thing. He's a former band guy himself, and
he is very supportive of the arts. And we came to him years ago when we noticed that there was no beginning strings in elementary schools in Muskegon Public Schools, and we wanted to start a program. And he has been so supportive of that program. It's not called Link Up, it's called Tune Up.
Okay.
And we made them sound kind of the same, because what we hope is that kids who participate in Link Up will be inspired to take up an instrument.
Okay.
And then the very next year they can start on beginning strings and try out a violin or viola. And most of the schools do have good band. But we saw that the gap was in strings, so we decided to start that, and we do that in collaboration with the Impact After School program.
Okay.
What's some of the music we can expect for 2026, 2027?
At the symphony?
Yes.
Okay. Golly, all kinds of stuff. We're going to open the season in the beginning of October, and it's going to be a Beach Boys tribute.
Nice.
Yeah, so imagine that, Beach Boys at Symphony. This is not the actual Beach Boys, obviously, because I don't think they're even all still alive. Some of them are, but it's a great Beach Boys tribute band with orchestral charts.
Okay.
And so we're going to do that in October. And we have a concert coming up then in November. December is our home for the holidays, where we feature, we always feature a high school choir every year, different high school choir. This year, I think it's Grand Haven.
Okay.
We'll be doing a concert pretty much once a month between October and June.
Okay.
And this is airing tomorrow, right?
This is live.
This is live. Oh, okay.
You are live.
I'm live. Oh my gosh. So I better be careful what I say. Well, fine. As long as I'm live, I will just say we have a concert tonight.
Okay.
Yes, please.
In a couple of hours.
Okay.
7:30 p.m. at the Frauenthal Center, and this is one that is going to include our principal cello player. His name is Igor. He's Serbian. He has a strong Serbian accent, so he sounds very much like a classical musician, and he's playing this cello piece that is just wild and crazy, and it's got elements of rock and roll in it, and then it, on a dime, all of a sudden it sounds like classical music again, and you're like, okay, well, wait a minute, what was this composer smoking? And then on the second half, we're doing a symphony that features organ. And the Frauenthal Center, a lot of people haven't seen it for years, but the Frauenthal Center's got a theater organ, just like they used to use to play along with movies back when our parents were little. And it has been sort of shoved away downstairs for a long time because it got damaged by, I guess, some leakage. But the Community Foundation has spent a lot of money restoring it.
Okay.
So tonight will be the first time we've used it, and I don't know how long. And so it's going to be featured in this symphony called the Oregon Symphony.
Okay.
It's there's a couple of times where I had to tell the organist to tone it down a little bit during rehearsal because he was drowning out the orchestra.
Yeah.
Now, you're talking to parents. Well, explain to parents why music, why getting their children into music.
Music grows kids with bigger hearts. That's what I think. It gives them an outlet for joy, for excitement, for hope, for pain, for loneliness. So that's why I think it's important. I mean, it's important scholastically, as we've already said, but I think it's really important emotionally.
That's good.
Kids need a place to put all those emotions that they're experiencing.
That's good.
You mentioned the block earlier. Tell people about that venue
Mhm.
and how it's used.
The block is it's just down the street on Western Avenue from the Frauenthal Center, up above Unruly Brewing, and that's kind of an interesting juxtaposition. Sometimes we have to sort of work very collaboratively with them.
You guys work really well together.
You do, yeah. It's like, we'll literally be doing a concert and they're downstairs waiting until we're done so they can start their event. We go downstairs and say, okay, hit it. The block seats 120, and it is, we call it a listening room. It's not a concert hall. It's not a recital hall. It's a listening room. And we have a bar and table seating and also seating in rows. And sometimes we'll put up a portable stage if we want to elevate the piano and the musicians. Sometimes they just play on the floor. It just kind of depends. And we do a lot of jazz there. It's kind of I think of it as the home for jazz in Muskegon. Because we do more jazz than anybody else. And we bring in jazz acts from a lot of jazz acts from Detroit, Ann Arbor, that part of the state, but also Chicago and really pretty much everywhere in the U.S. And then we also do small groups of our own musicians, like a string quartet or a woodwind quintet, things like that. And sometimes we'll have solo piano performers. Like if we have a piano soloist at the symphony on Friday night, the next night, a lot of times you'll see them over there in the block offering a solo program. So that's how we use that. And also a lot of community groups use the block for meetings and stuff like that. We work a lot with the Chamber uses it, Rotary uses it. So.
You see a lot of newer bands right now. One of my favorite is Snarky Puppy, for instance. But you see them using venues like the block to perform concerts, intimate concerts, and having the people in the living, with the instruments and stuff like that. You're seeing more and more of those concerts recorded instead of them doing just regular videos.
Yeah, and we've actually done recordings at the block. It's a great place for that. It reminds me of MTV invented the term unplugged. Unplugged concerts. We actually borrowed that term and we call it WMS Unplugged. And for us, I mean, all of our concerts are unplugged technically, but sometimes when we'll take 4 or 5 of our musicians out of the West Michigan Symphony and put them on stage by themselves at the block, we call that unplugged. And that's fun for them because there's the skill of playing together as an orchestra and becoming a single instrument under the guidance of a conductor is really different than the skill of being on your own in a string quartet where all 4 of you are soloists. And it's really fun to see the way that changes the way they play.
Can I say that, took a couple of classes in like organizational leadership, those kind of classes. And this surprised me. When you talk about like leaders and examples, how many examples they use of orchestra conductors about leadership.
Interesting.
And it just caught me by surprise. I'm like, I didn't expect to see these in the book. And, again, I know the guys up there waving on one, but a lot of examples, we talk about the leadership they provide on, you talk about making it one instrument. And that kind of made me think of that. I know you've talked about Scott before, but just what they bring to making that whole experience.
It's a lot of building trust. So I'm actually, now that you mentioned that, I'm not surprised that's what you heard, because the conductors that, at least the ones that I have found make the best music are the ones that build trust. The authoritarians, I mean, they, there used to be a lot of very authoritarian conductors, and thank goodness that's kind of going by the wayside. But conductors like Scott, it's like a team that you build. And in our case, because we're not a full-time orchestra, our musicians are all professionals, they're all paid, but we do not employ them full time like the Detroit Symphony, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a core group of musicians, but within that framework, there's still a lot of change and guest, supplementary musicians who come in. So pretty much every concert, there's a slightly different mix of musicians on stage.
Okay.
And the fact that he's able to build trust and ensemble feeling with basically 4 nights of rehearsal, and then put on a concert. To me, it's pretty remarkable.
Wow.
So let's bring it back to the in children. How many schools do you serve? Let's bring it back there.
Link Up serves 52 schools.
Wow.
6 counties.
Wow.
And that includes, I think it includes all of Muskegon Public Schools now. Muskegon Heights, most of the schools in Grand Haven, Whitehall, Montague, and in the rural, sort of more east districts in the county and in the other counties around. Tune Up, that's the Beginning Strings program I told you about. That is solely in Muskegon Public Schools at this point. We rolled that out 4 years ago, and as of this year, we're in all 4 elementary schools and in middle school. And that's kind of my favorite program. I love seeing those young kids learning to play an instrument, and they start out the first day they get their instrument in the fall, and they don't know anything about it. They learn how to hold it, and then for several weeks, all they're doing is plucking. And then they get what our teacher calls their bow license, which I love that. So then, so they learn how to hold the bow, and then they learn how to move it, and just seeing that growth over the school year, this really makes me happy.
What age group is the Link Up program?
Link Up is 5th grade, 4th, 5th. I think 3rd, 4th, and 5th, but mostly 5th.
Okay.
And
Tune Up.
Tune Ups actually starts in 3rd grade. We thought it was going to be more of a 5th grade thing, but it's also 3rd, 4th, and 5th. So originally we thought you would be in Link Up first, and then you would go into Tune Up. And sometimes it happens that way, but sometimes it might happen the other way around, and that's fine.
Okay. And the date for the concerts they'll get to hear these young people is?
Oh, that's Tuesday. What is that? The 12th? Yeah, next Tuesday.
Yeah,
12.
So yeah, if your kids are in that program this year, you would have been invited to attend. Yeah. And I think the concerts are all full. There might be a few seats left at 11 o'clock, that performance.
Okay.
So yeah.
And Andy, we don't want you to leave without giving a shout out, saying something about the sponsors and support you get from businesses and from the Muskegon, West Michigan community.
Oh, well, thank you. We get a lot of support. Well, first of all, we get support from the Michigan Arts and Culture Council, which is that's a state group. And here in Muskegon, we get support from the Heinz Corporation and Harbor Steel, the Warner Norcross Judd attorneys, Smith Hoey, Rice and Reggie, Mercy Health, Trinity Health, I guess I should say. It's Trinity Health. And Mike and Kay Olthoff are big sponsors of ours. So we're very blessed. The support of this community is amazing.
Wonderful.
It really is. Yeah.
All right, we're down at the bottom of the hour. I mean, the top of the hour, and it's Mother's Day weekend. And then I heard something interesting. They're saying that the average person will probably spend over $200 some odd dollars on their mother. That's not going to happen in my house.
So my wife and I were having this discussion because I keep telling her she's not my mother. I'm not have to get her anything. By the reactions here, I'm going to have to drop that argument, right? I said, I'm going to call those kids for you. But no. Okay.
No.
All right. Seasoned professionals give me advice.
If you do not go get that card, if you don't get, and my wife, she loves that card. If you don't go get that card, she doesn't want anything big, but some acknowledgement.
At least the card, yeah.
Let me tell her, mothers deserve the acknowledgement that they get. And if you have lost your mother or grandmother, you would understand. Take this weekend, and it's all about them.
Yes.
Would you agree?
I agree.
That is the show for this weekend. Go out and touch somebody like this guy right here. You'll be surprised what music has done in my life and how many people it has touched it. Take care. This is Community Focus. We'll see you next week.
The wait is over. The all-new Umoja Radio Network, home to over 40 Black-owned radio stations and podcasts, is here for you. Connect to the world's fastest-growing collection of unapologetically Black and proud media, from podcasts to independent Black-owned radio stations, and access to the important news and music you need. Umoja Radio is from our culture, by our culture, for our culture. The all-new Umoja Radio is available right now on Google Play and the Apple Store. Join the movement. Be empowered.